It's 1055. Earl Siward of Northumbria has just died, and a new earl has been appointed, Tostig Godwinson. Tostig is younger brother of Harold Godwinson, Earl of Wessex, and this new appointment only goes to strengthen the power of the Godwins. 1065. The rising against Earl Tostig. Northumbria is an important earldom. It's large and guards the border with Scotland. It's a long way from the king's power base in the south and has a long history of Viking attacks and settlement, making it the obvious entry point for further Viking invasions. Northumbria is very different from Wessex, where Tostig and his family are from. Much of it is part of the Danelaw, meaning there are many different laws and customs. For example, there are many more churls, peasants not tied to a lord. People in the Danelaw also use a lot of words borrowed from the Scandinavian languages of the Vikings. In the Danelaw, 100 is called a wapentake, and a hide a carucate. This means southerners like Tostig probably struggle to understand the Northumbrians. And as time goes on with Tostig as leader, resentment begins to build against him, for many reasons. Tostig is friends with Malcolm III, King of Scotland, and this means he doesn't defend against Scottish attacks. In 1061, while Tostig is away, Malcolm invades Northumbria and causes much destruction. However, Tostig does not retaliate and instead agrees peace terms, causing his people to feel betrayed. Tostig has been unjust, imposing new laws from the south and abusing his power to get rid of rivals. His enemies complain that he has falsely accused people of crimes in order to take money and land from them. Moreover, he has taxed Northumbria too heavily. The Yeld tax was originally used to pay off Viking attacks. Thus, northern Danelaw regions pay taxes at a much lower rate than the rest of the country. The Danelaw isn't used to heavy taxation, and this really builds resentment. To add to this, Tostig is a southerner, and Northumbria has always been governed by northerners. Until now, the southern Anglo-Saxon kings had generally left the north to govern itself. In 1064, Tostig invites two followers of Gospatrick, a leading Northumbrian aristocrat, to York. Whilst there, he murders them. Soon after, Gospatrick himself is assassinated, after he travels south to King Edward's court to complain about Tostig to the king. The people of Northumbria view this as the worst kind of treachery, and this is the final blow for them. In 1065, an uprising begins, with the rebels marching on York, the city from where Northumbria is governed. There, they kill as many of Tostig's housecarls and servants as they can find, and declare Tostig an outlaw. They invite Morcar, the brother of the Earl of Mercia, to be their earl instead. King Edward holds a conference to decide what to do about the rising. Harold and the king's other advisors agree that Tostig is to blame for the rising. Tostig is furious that Harold has not backed him, and accuses Harold of conspiring against him, saying the rising was a plot to replace him. Edward commands that an army be raised to put down the rising, but Harold and the other earls make excuses, disobeying this command, leaving Edward with no choice but to accept the rebels' demands. As a result, Harold soon meets with the rebels and passes on King Edward's agreement to their terms. The rebels had actually been quite diplomatic in their choice of Morcar as a leader. They could have pushed for a northerner, like Waltheof, the son of their previous earl, but instead they chose Morcar, a southerner. To cement the agreement, Harold then marries Morcar's sister, his second wife, and is given large landholdings in Mercia. The rising had begun in early October, but by the 1st of November, Tostig is exiled. There are a few possible reasons why Harold chooses to betray his brother and the king. It is likely that by this point he wants to be king himself. Edward is old and ill, thus Harold feels he can push the king's boundaries further. Tostig is a potential rival to the throne, so this is a good opportunity to eliminate this opposition. Furthermore, if Harold is soon to become king, then he needs a united country against the growing threats from Normandy and Scandinavia. The refusal of the earls to obey the king is also significant. After all, they are bound to him by oaths of loyalty and are supposed to act as his military leaders. This shows that the power of the king can sometimes be challenged if the king is weak and it's in the interests of the major earls to act together. 1065, the rising against Earl Tostig. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and tell all your friends. And whilst you're here on the internet, you should definitely check out my Twitter, because you'll find some excellent, high quality, top notch, absolutely hilarious content there. And it won't take you 2 seconds. It also won't take you 2 seconds to go on down into the description of this video and find a link to some Quizlet flashcards, as well as practice questions and a full set of notes, which you should find very useful in your revision. I believe that is all I have to say. So, goodbye. Or should I say, Wesathie Hala.